Welcome back, folks. Today in the basement of the Stoneface Garage, I'm going to show you how I reassembled and rebuilt my GM telescopic steering wheel and column. And if you stick around to the end, bonus footage will tear this steering wheel apart and see what's inside. Don't miss it. You won't believe what's there. So a couple things before we get started. Of course, this is the finished product. I'm going to show you how I put it together. If you want to know how to take it apart, well, I guess maybe run the video backwards. Now, seriously, there's a lot of YouTube videos out there showing different guys doing different columns. I recommend watch them all, including this one. Well, I guess you are watching this one. If you're going to get one of these, first thing you want to do is to get online and Google the Shea steering papers. This is really the Bible of this work. Get those, print them out, study them. I'll put the link down below. That'll tell you everything you need to know about these things. You get all your diagrams and tips and tricks. Apparently that guy was a Saginaw steering engineer and helped design these things to begin with. So knows his stuff. So definitely do that. You get one of these, make sure your guy that cuts it out of the car gives you all the wiring stuff here. Both sides of the harness. It makes it much easier to wire that into your car. It's all the standard GM harness colors. This particular one is a little unique. It has the key lock lever, telescopic, and this multifunction lever, which I'll talk about later. I cleaned and took all the paint off everything. And I painted it with a wrinkle finish. Tried that, did not work. I used this Rust-Oleum multicolor texture, then a satin black over it. Got a really nice look to it. And anyway, but here's what it looks like when you take it all apart. Well, here's all the parts laid out on the table. I figured it's about 100 different pieces if you count them all individually. From the bearings and the switches and the lock plates and the hardware. Individual ball bearings, actuator rods, some new, some old. I had the switches there. I had to do a little bit of wiring repair, but those have all been cleaned up and degreased and ready to go here. Everything's going to have to get lubricated as I put it back together. But and I did end up buying a couple of new pieces. So as I go through it, I'll show sort of where the new bits and pieces came in. Here's the first step. This is just a little key lock release lever on this particular model. I'm using Bosch distributor grease on everything inside the column. Very heavy grease and stands up to heat and moisture and Loctite, yeah. So red Loctite in the blue bottle and blue Loctite in the red bottle. I don't know why they do it that way, but pick your poison. But definitely Loctite your screws in there, particularly in this main cast housing here. This is the main pivot for the column and takes all of the torque and the springs there. So I put the red Loctite, which is I think the super one, on there. Get those just screwed down and torqued down. I forget the spec, but it's in the Shea papers. A little more grease on everything, and that's the actuator rod for the ignition switch. Remember, the switch is actually down on the column itself, and activated mechanically from the ignition tumbler there, up in the column head itself. All right, next thing to install is the steering shaft. Now, this is the two-piece steering shaft. You can see what makes this a collapsible, energy-absorbing shaft is right here. This is two pieces that slide, but there's injection molded plastic in between here. There's a plug there so that if this gets impacted in a collision, that just shears off and this whole thing collapses. So here you have a ball joint on the end with the upper shaft. Now you've got to check to make sure that this is nice and tight. The test is if you hold this up like this, if you shake it, if this falls down by itself, then that's not good. but this one is pretty tight. Now I haven't lubricated it again yet, but I will lubricate it and then check it again. It's important that you install the orientation correctly though. If you look at this end of the shaft, this goes into the rag joint coupler at the steering box. You can see that there's a flat here. You put that flat like right up there at 12 o'clock. You come all the way down and look at this end. On this end of the shaft, you can see there's a flat here and another flat here. Hard to see, but they're not the same size. One is longer than the other. This one is longer, this one is shorter. So in this shaft, again, that end is at 12 o'clock. The flat that should also be at 12 o'clock is the shorter one. Look at that again, maybe that way. So that needs to be that way, because this ends up engaging the turn signal coupler, canceling cam, and which is right here. And if that doesn't engage properly, your turn signals won't cancel properly. So I'm going to go ahead and take this apart and put some grease on it and then stick it in the tube. Here I'm greasing up the ball joint for the shaft. As I said, if it's too loose, it'll droop down. You can actually hit the yoke with a hammer, they say, to tighten it up a little bit, just carefully. So I just, mine tested fine. I tested it again there right after I greased it up. Alright, well, this is called the bearing housing. And this is where, among other things, the ignition switch actuators all go. All this lovely stuff here. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that in. Okay. Now you can see how that all coordinates together. So that's got to be in here, and this has to be in here, and the locking pin has to be engaged there. Now I need to drive this shaft in a little bit further down here. Just like that. So bearing housing, what you have here is upper and lower bearings. They're actually loose ball bearings, so if you're lucky you didn't lose a bunch of them down the steering column when you pulled yours apart. You got these two plastic races. I'm going to put some grease on here, stick the ball bearings on, hopefully they'll stay there, and then you just stick it in the housing. No real easy way to do this, I don't think. I've taken the upper bearing race off and put it over here because I can always slide that on after. The lower one I have on the shaft instead of in here. Balls are all accounted for. I'm going to try again. I'm going to slide this right over here. This has to engage in here. Now, I need to Get this shaft up here. And engaged. We are there. I think we're in. Pretty sure we're in. Yeah, so I can see I've got the pivot pin hole lined up there and over there. I think all the ball bearings are in place still. One that's coming out here. That's the problem. I have to. Alright, well that's in. I have to put the pivot pins in. Okay, new camera angle now. I've got this hole aligned. I'm going to pop that pivot pin in there. Then carefully turn this over. You can see there. Move this key a little bit. And that pivot pin is in there. Alright. What you have to be careful of here is that shaft can move out because it's not in the car, so I have to hold it in there. I have to rig something up there. So I think I just lost the ball bearing, but I should be able to fit it right in here. I can find out where she came from. And right there. Put it right back in there. Right back in there. Okay. That's good. I'm just going to have to clip that shaft in. Alright, so this is all back together. All the bearings are in. The pins are in on the side. The upper bearing in here too. Going to install the lock spring now. I'm going to tilt this column. You can see how it tilts up and down pretty well. Oh, I should mention I put some wire coat hangers wired to here to hold the shaft from sliding down. Keep the bearings all tight in place there. If you're doing this in the car, that wouldn't be a problem because the shaft would be held in place. But I'm not, so it's not. Alright, so you've got a little pin here that slides down on the spring. It goes right down like that. You have a little cup thing here. And you take a screwdriver. And you take a screwdriver. Turn that in there and you let it go. So now that spring for the tilt is in place. I'm going to tilt it. It's a very strong spring. Don't just let that go without the wheel on there, because it'll spring up on you. Alright, for now we're going to want to leave it here going straight across. Oops. Which I think it is. Pretty much there. And I'm going to take the lever off for now for the next step. Alright, next I may have mentioned that this is a 77 Corvette column. Very unique that year for the Corvette. But also used in other GM vehicles in that era. I don't know all the years, but like the Fieros and stuff like that. The turn signal lever is also the headlight dimmer, and it's also the wiper control, kind of all in one. So if you look at this little green switch here and that rod that goes up to here, that is the headlight dimmer. I don't have to put a little foot switch in. How all that works is this little guy here. This has the dimmer toggle feature and the little twist thing for the headlight switch, sorry, the wiper switch, which is here. And then this whole thing rocks for the turn signal. So this guy goes up inside the turn signal housing like this. You gotta feed the wires up through here. Turn this way. Like that. And then there's a long bolt that goes in there and holds it in place. Okay. But then you got to take the wires and feed them back down. Like that. So this will go down through there and then fed down through the column. I'll just tighten that up with some pliers. So this is a fiddly little thing. This is the upper housing cover where the wiper multifunction switch goes. You gotta kind of connect it to the push rod when you put it in there and hold it in place till you put the other upper cover on and get all the different things aligned. It's pretty busy in there trying to find a home for everything to seat in, but then once you do... Alright, well this little doodad here is the infamous key warning buzzer light thing, which I have no intent of putting in a buzzer, but I'm going to go ahead and throw the switch in because might as well, I got it, right? And then the key cylinder, make sure the key's out so the little tang is detached, is retracted on the bottom, so it slides in past that switch. And this little guy here just goes into that slot on this style column. Some of these have a screw in them. This one does not. I'm going to have to put the key in there now. And there we go. She's in there. So you got to make sure it connects with the tang that's in there on the switch. And you see the switch inside there. So that is good to go. Next is the turn signal switch. So then just putting the turn signal switch in, the main trick there is to carefully thread that wire loom through. It helps to put it like on a cable tie and a string and just kind of pull it through and get it seated and screwed into place. Pretty straightforward there. Okay, now for the upper telescoping shaft. This little short shaft here has an actuator rod and a key, and that slides into the lower shaft through that keyway. When you tighten down on the locking mechanism on the telescopic hub, it pulls that that key and it jams it in there, and it keeps the shaft from going in and out. There's a spring. This is the canceling cam that goes on the shaft. The flat goes on the long flat on the shaft. And then the lock plate goes over that, and you can see how that fits closely on the canceling cam. The only thing you have to do now is compress that spring in order to get the little C-clip on there. Now, you can go online and find a tool. There are directions to make a tool. I started to do that, and I said, wait a minute, there's a better way. You go down to O'Reilly's, or I think some of the other big auto parts stores have these. They got your free tool rental program, and you get this kit right here. Everything you need to pull your steering wheels and your lock plates. And best of all, it costs $0. You basically give them a deposit, you use it, bring it back, get your money back. Alright, so one of the things that's going to happen when you go to compress this with the tool is this shaft is going to want to slide out. So in this type of column, you actually need to get a little Allen set screw like that. That's the same diameter and pitch as the locking screw for the steering wheel, and put that in there far enough to basically lock the telescopic feature. In other words, you're pushing on that push rod, and you are keeping this from pulling out. You can see I'm going to tighten it a little bit more. Tightening it, and there we go. So now this won't pull out. So then all you need in the kit is this gizmo here. You tighten this adapter onto the external threads. You put this down here on the locking plate. I have to make sure that I can clear the slot. Tighten this nut down, and I'm just going to put some tension on this. So now the slot has been cleared up there, and I'm going to take this little C-clip and slide that in the slot there. Oops. Like that. Then I can undo the tension on this. I can undo this. Take that out. Don't forget you have that Allen in there. And you got to pull that set screw right out. Otherwise you will not get telescopic feature to relock. Oops. right out of there. And that's it for that piece right there. Alright, well, the next thing to go in is something called the horn contact retainer. It'll slide right over this C-clip here. Chances are when you took your column apart, your clip looks like this, which is a pile of plastic junk. Good news is they actually do sell one. It's more of a more modern plastic, I would say, molded in black, and this snaps right in place over here. Over that C-clip. There we go, you can feel it snap into place. Then you're going to have maybe a couple of bumpers. You might not have them, but these slide right on here. This gives you a little cushion when you retract the telescopic in and out. You may find that they're not in there. Some people will take those out. You get a little bit more play or throw in the assembly, but I'm going to leave it in there. And then you have finally the hub here that has the spring contact on the back, and that slides down there on those contactors for the horn. Make sure that's reasonably straight and clean. I'm going to try to align this so that it points up properly. I didn't mark it, but I can sort of figure out where it goes. I hope it should go right on there. All right, and there's a retaining nut. I'm going to have to get my torque wrench and tighten that down to, I think it was 30 foot-pounds. Alright, ordinarily now you would start putting your horn pieces together. Well, here's my horn pieces. They're a bunch of rusty junk. And I've ordered new ones and they're back ordered, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw the steering wheel on. And then when they come in, I'll put them on later. Here's the shroud that goes over the steering wheel. It only fits one way, so you can't mess that up. And the steering wheel and all the screws. I'm just going to put a couple of the screws on for now. On my crappy steering wheel. Just to kind of show that. These steering wheels have a collar that looks like this. So what you're going to do is you're going to put that collar on here first, and then you're going to tighten this over it. With a BFS. You're going to want to tighten that down pretty far such that you've locked that in, and then you align on this so-called star bolt one of the holes on the locking ring with a little screw here, little Phillips screw, and that one should do. And there should be two of these. I only had one. I got to go find another one. And then what that does, that allows the locking ring to actuate the star. So this is locked, and then you'll go like that and loosen it. And then you can go in and out. And then you turn it to the right and lock it. And there it is. So once we figure out what to do with this steering wheel, then I will go ahead and get the horn in, and we'll show that. So Bonus content coming. So, original Corvette steering wheel from 1977 with a 70s era vinyl cover on there, wrapped in GIMP. We've probably all done 100 of these back in the day, right fellas? Crappy old leather, so take that one off. All the GIMP that had on there. Crappy leather, just could not save this. Just look at it really bad. Interesting underneath. It's like a latex rubber cushion, like it was molded in place. So I just went and sliced it all around on the inside there. And you can just peel that away in one piece. Now I thought I was going to find a nice beautiful round hoop or flat stamped metal and make it easy to make something with. Recover it. Nope. Look at this. It's just 4 little iron bars with really rough welds. Just kind of tacked on there. And that's it. About as cheap as it possibly could be. So I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I might try to, like everyone else on YouTube, make my own steering wheel out of this. Modified. So I have to kind of keep the Corvette function. I'm going to put the I'm going to put a new horn button on there with a special custom logo, I think. So stay tuned down the road. Figure out what we want to do. I suppose I could just buy one, but what fun is that?